Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Gifty. A warm and pleasant welcome to you. I hope you are all doing well. In today's video, we are making a simple but absolutely delicious pumpkin bread. This is a quick bread and it is infused with all the warm and fall spices. Absolutely delicious, and we are using my homemade pumpkin puree. If you have not seen that video, I will link it down below. So quickly, let me run you through the ingredients and get started. For our list of ingredients, I have half a cup of buttermilk, 4 large eggs, I have a teaspoon of ginger, freshly grated ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and then I have 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and 2 teaspoons of grated nutmeg, freshly grated. You can get the whole and grate it yourself. That would be great. And over in this bowl, I have a cup of packed dark brown sugar, and I have half cup of granulated sugar. If you want it really sweet, you can do 1 cup, but half cup is good for me. And then I have 15 ounces of pumpkin puree here, just a little bit under 2 cups. I have a little bit over half cup of oil, so you can use butter as well if you want the butter taste, but I'm doing oil, which helps it to the bread stay a little moist at room temperature even for days. You can use 12 tablespoons of butter if you're going to use butter. And in this bowl, I have 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 teaspoon of coarse salt. If you're using the table salt, you might want to reduce it a little bit because it's finer. And then over here, I have this batter yields 2 loaves, so I have 2 loaf pans which I have buttered, and I also used parchment paper to line it so nothing sticks at the bottom of the pan. So to start off, I have already heated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to add the dry spices. If you can't find the fresh ginger, you can go ahead and use powdered ginger, so you can add it in at this point, and make sure you mix everything until it's well incorporated. You can also use a standing mixer or an electric handheld mixer to do this, but it's so simple, so I'm using a whisk and a bowl, so you have no excuse not to try this recipe. So now that my dry ingredients are well mixed together, I'll go ahead and mix my wet ingredients. I'll also add in the pumpkin puree. So if you're using the store-bought pumpkin puree, make sure you get the one without the spices, the pumpkin pie spice, because since we're using our own spices. So I'll just go ahead and mix it until we have a nice creamy texture, and then we'll move on to the next step. I'll go ahead and add in the eggs next. So you want to do it a little bit at a time. Then I'll add the last one. So the sugar is well dissolved into the mixture so far. I'll add in the buttermilk as well. So for the buttermilk, I'm using evaporated milk. You can use reduced milk or whole milk. And what I did was I added a half a teaspoon of vinegar. So you see we have that curdle that we get from your buttermilk. So I'm going to add that in here. Mix it together, and also adding the oil. And I'll add in the fresh ginger as well. So now I'll go ahead and pour in my wet mixture into the dry ingredients. So I make a well in the center. And one important thing when you're baking is you want to make sure all your ingredients are at room temperature, like your egg and your milk. Okay, so we'll pour that in there. And also you want to make sure that you preheat your oven ahead of time. I'll gently mix all the ingredients. You don't want to over mix it, or you're going to have a tough loaf of bread. I switched to a spatula, so I'll just go ahead and fold it in gently until everything is well incorporated. And the reason why we're using 2 sugars is the for structure and also for flavor. The brown sugar gives it like a nice kind of molassesy flavor because of the molasses in the sugar, and the white sugar also gives it structure. So now that we're ready, it smells great already. I will divide the batter into the 2 loaf pans. So before you divide the batter into the loaf pans, if you want a little bit more texture, you can go ahead and add in some dried cranberries or some pumpkin seeds, and that will be excellent. But I'm just going simple, so I'm just tapping the loaf pans onto the surface just to get any air bubbles out of the batter. So I'm gonna put it in a 350-degree oven for, now you want to start checking it at a 45-minute mark because everyone's oven is different, but mine takes about 50 to 55 minutes. So once it's done, we'll see how our pumpkin bread looks. Alright you guys, so 50 minutes later, look at our bread. It's so nice and golden brown, looks absolutely beautiful. So I inserted a toothpick in the center of both breads and it came out clean. So if you check it and it still has batter on it, then you have to put it in the oven at like 5-minute increments until it's done. So I let it sit out for about 10 minutes after I took it out of the oven, so it's a little easier to handle. So I'm just going to pull it out. See, when you use the parchment paper, see, nothing in the paper. So I'll let it cool down completely and then we'll cut into it and see. This bread is absolutely delicious. Just look at the color, absolutely gorgeous. The spices are coming through very well. It's very soft and very crumbly, not too tough. Oh, so delicious. You have to make this, and the ginger is coming through, gives it just a little bit of a kick. Absolutely delicious. You have to make this for your Thanksgiving brunch table. Your guests will absolutely love it. Now just imagine them waking up to that beautiful aroma that morning. Oh, just look at how soft that is. So you can enjoy this with your tea, your coffee, whatever you want to enjoy this. If you want to get fancy, you can frost it with some cream cheese frosting, which will be absolutely delicious. I'll have the list of ingredients in the description box down below. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until we meet again, stay blessed, stay out of trouble, and be well. Bye, y'all.